My favorite Yao Guang streamer. I get chills every time I hear Yao Guang now. PTSD, wartime flashbacks. Got Evernight today, she's goated. Bricked. This is Honkai Star Rail. Even though you pulled the most broken DPS in the game, power crept in 1 or 2 patches, can no longer clear. GG's. I send my prayers for you. I wasn't planning on investing into Elation, but I like Yao Guang, so I'm gonna do it just to have her best team. I mean, if your goal is getting Yao Guang, her best team will technically be like every Elation DPS. So like, at least you got more variety being a Yao Guang fan. Are there any talks about Blady, or is it a desert? Desert. How are you? Doing pretty solid. Oh shit, I actually got grabbed. I thought I dodged that. Missed crit. There we go. I don't think this will clear though. I probably need to level up like basic attack and stuff. Yeah, this isn't gonna clear. Sag. $21. Hello, gabbing it. Hello. Damn it. Give me an early. Just put my card in here. With Verena. Like throw in a bootling, I guess. You are the Kurobot I give up? What do you mean? The more I see your posts, the more I realize how much of a G you are. Appreciate that, Coda. The type of person puts you know, hey, I'm just being honest to myself, man. That's all it is. The way the game treats you, it loves you. Hey, it's all natural, man. This is proof that Wuwa doesn't like Kurobots. The more I see Kurumi, the more I see base taste. I mean, I watched Data Live like really early on. It was it was among like I'd say the first 5 animes I watched. Back then it only had like a couple seasons though. And then I like re-picked it back up at some point. Yeah, Anon said no. So what happened was Sakura Haven and another leaker, I think Yubacha, they were guessing the paths, like their guess for the paths of Blade and Pearl. But then Anon said he doesn't agree. So that means the paths, at least of one of them, are wrong. My cart doesn't care about attack, so. Nope. Waiting for Evanescia? Yeah, shouldn't be too long. Are we gabbing it today? Nah. That's unprofessional. This one. Might get skip Sparksy. My Yao Guang might be useless for a while. I mean, I don't understand why people say the Yao Guang useless thing. Like, I get it, but if we really think about it, it's 4 weeks. Because 4.1 is only 4 weeks. So people are like, oh, I'm going to skip Yao Guang and wait until 4.3 because otherwise I'm going to have to wait too long for a DPS. It's like, it's only about a month, and then you have technically 3 Elation main DPSs out. Wasn't the last ice unit Herda? Son. max HP. Give me basic attack damage. No? No? Okay, no.
The knight's challenge has arrived. Repent. Your silence beckons. Ruin is furious tides. Split the heavens. Such my heaven's magic.
E1 S1 Sunday or Triby E1 for Blade, what you think? Triby E1.
True form revealed at last.
Whoops, wrong button. Alright, that should be it. Another pull down. Yeah, Sparksy will lose a lot of damage without Sparkle. But Yao Guang is the more important one. So, like, it'll still clear, especially because she's currently getting shield. Close. Dude. Alright. Hyacine kinda killed the abundance path, not gonna lie, because whatever comes after has to top that. No. Hyacine is like the most overrated character in HSR history. It's actually so sad. Like, deadass, Huo has more value than Hyacine currently does. Also, people say, like, oh my god, the abundance path was about healing. What happened to it? Now Hyacine does damage. It's like, can we be for real, dude? Huo has always been a pseudo harmony as an abundance. It's always been this way, man. ER gen, she has what's it called? Attack buffs team wide. Like, are we gonna now slander Huo, man? And she's getting buffed. Hyacine Tribbies, Lene Mornai. Who cares? It still blows. This isn't the beginning of version 3 anymore. Like, they are two different games. HSR power creep is more rampant. So the value of sub DPS doing a good amount of damage was good back then when the HP was literally half of what it is right now. But you see literally nobody talk about Tribby damage anymore. Tribby follow-up damage. Even though they used to be like, oh, build Tribby on a DPS build. Right. To do as much sub DPS damage as possible. Now most people just run Tribby on Eagle. Because that's her best build since her damage barely matters anymore. Yeah, but Huohuo's getting buffed in 2 patches. And Ho can sustain literally everything that isn't AA. Like the only people saying, "Oh, this character can't sustain," it's usually AA. Any sustain can sustain an MOC. Yeah, exactly. They're probably gonna fix a majority of Ho-Ho's issues on buff. Better healing, more SP positivity, more ER gen slash attack buff. Bam. People saying Elation is bricked because it doesn't care about action advance. I mean, isn't Mono Rem the same thing? What's their point? Mono Rem is like 90% out of turn attacks, where like AA barely does anything. What are these mobile? I don't know. I fucking hate this event, dude. I hate this event so much. But it's whatever. If it gets me my ass right, man, whatever. Aha instance with 4 elation units is gonna do a ton of damage. Oh, for sure. I always see people try and say that, you know, oh, there isn't gonna be an elation sustain because elation only wants 3 elation units. And I don't think this is the case. I do think they're making a mono elation team, and the reason why they made it so that it only scales off of 3 elation characters is because the DPS is probably not going to be on high speed, right? So instead of the DPS's speed kind of bringing down the rest of the team in a mono elation team, the speed will scale off of the sustain, which will obviously probably have high speed. The support, we already know Yao Guang is on like 200 speed if built correctly. And then Sparksy can be ran on ER rope plus speed boots for like 160 plus. That's why I think there's it only scales off of 3 elation character speed. Um any leaks about Sampo? No. Dude, what is this shit, man? Oh my god. slammed. I don't know what blade is supposed to be. Yeah, I'm 100% considering picking up Ho on my Firefly account for my dot team. Because the only like good sustain it has is Don Hung. It doesn't even have like an Avon or like a 2.x sustain. How did I take damage from that? No, with all the leaker gone, we're in a dry period. Oh, for sure. It's basically back to like early it's back to early Ampho where like you just didn't know concrete what a character did until like literally a few days before beta or on beta, which is kind of sad, but is what it is. How did I just take damage from that, dude? The hitbox on this shit is like crazy. Yo, dude. Please tell me that's it. Thank God. All that for 80 Asterite?
Time for a little nap.
Let's see. I'm only at 80, man. Fine, fine. Take me to Lahai Roy. I feel bad for the people that pulled Saridra thinking she would be for Elation. I don't. I have no clue how people deluded themselves that badly. Peeps really thought that? I don't think so. I think they just try to delude themselves into believing it to like give her more value outside of just Phanon and Anoxa, but like nah, man. Yeah, but being skill heavy never meant anything for Saridra value. Because even if someone is skill heavy, if anything, that decreases Saridra value sometimes. Because if they constantly spam skill, then her buffs and her double skill would like lose value. Like the only reason Saridra, like people are always talking about and come to my channel like, oh, you were wrong about Saridra, and then they'll then show Cyrene Saridra, in which Cyrene fixes a good part of Saridra's issues, which is she adds another, stack of Kuda main, or the thing that builds up to the double skill every single time a double skill is used, right? So, like, people will come to my channel like, "Oh my God, you were wrong about Sarija, this and that." It's like, no, she only has the value that she does paired with Cyrene. She's still best in slot for Phanon, and as well as what's it called, Anoxa, nonetheless. But it's like legit 20% or less jump if you don't have Cyrene paired with her. Like she is probably the worst support from the entirety of version 3 by a mile. And I love Saridra. Like she is one of my favorite characters in the game, but it's like I just can't lie, dude. She was terribly designed, terribly made. How in the world did I miss the purple? Gabby liking short characters, no way. True. Game changing information. Why is Yohu on Card's team? Because Yohu's my goat. Alright, give me my asteroid. Beautiful. That's what I needed to see. Yeah, Yao Guang just wants as much speed as possible. More speed you give her, faster aha instant. People who are like min-maxing her are aiming for 200. Lucky Maru, please bless my Ceredra pulls. I am not lucky. Okay, that makes 5. I did get 5 pulls today. So I'm at like 26 pity. Something tells me Gabby's a lolicon. I don't know where'd you get that from. I'm part of the normies. Lolly bad. Ha 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 ha. Says the guy who got E2 A meth and 15 pulls. Eh. Some light. Please never laugh like that again. My bad. Ameth S2. I'm currently farming for her S3 because like her S2 is like her S0 to S2 jump is less of a jump than getting her signature. But then her S3 is the big jump. So even though I have an S2 Ameth, it's basically on par with like an S0 R1 Ameth, which is kind of sad. The best part about it though is that if especially if I'm able to get S3, I can still buy 2 of her dupes with coral. So like down the line, I can end up getting S6 pretty cheap. You can buy S3 from the shop. It's really not that simple, guys. Like, it just isn't. I understand what you guys are saying, but, like, the amount of time it takes to build up enough coral to buy a sequence, especially on a new account without maxed 4 stars, like, it's probably going to take me half a year before I can even purchase a sequence. I don't play Woo. I didn't know. It's okay. Yeah. Like, it's an awesome thing that's there, but it is not at all easy to, like, save up for. You need 360 of this rainbow coral for it. And that's good. We. Alright. I wish I can sell the 5-star relics I don't need while farming in HSR. I think I get what you're saying. Do you think I should try and get Sparkle E2 and then Ashvale or just wait? I mean, Ashvale isn't going to get any more teammates, like, but sure. And there isn't going to be any character on that selector getting Nova Flared, so...
Let's call it a night's great harvest.
Hello. Are you a spender? On most of my accounts, I'm a low spender, yeah. The only one that's free to play is my HSR and Oxa account. Because people care about me being free to play on HSR. Because of the, oh, I can't clear because of the power creep after 2 patches thing.
The night's challenge has arrived.
No, his DPS isn't in 4.3 or 4.4. Otherwise, Anon would have lied. Which isn't happening. His DPS is probably like 4.6. I cleared AA as a free to play? Nice. I think Ashvale has... I think Ashvale's like the best designed character the game has ever made, though. I don't think he's a brick at all. He's like Bitcoin. Like, you can currently use him as a main DPS with the generalist supports you may not be using as much anymore, since they've made a lot of like niche teammates for some of the strongest teams in Amphorius. So you can run him main DPS, and then when he feels like he's falling off near the end of the version, you pull his actual main DPS, and he's now like one of the strongest teams in the game probably. Ashvale is like a really, really good character kit. No, Ashvale is not a 4.5 character. He's weaker than the current Elation team. The only reason he looks good is because he has the current, nearly the current Elation team's damage, but can focus it on single target, which is good for MOC obviously and single target bosses. But he is not, like, people overhype him. He isn't broken at all. The same thing happens with like every hunt character. Hunt DPS better in AoE? He isn't better in AoE though. He's only better against things like Nikador, when the AoE can give you a huge ass payoff. But if you go against like normal AoE targets like Pure Fiction, Asheville kind of sucks as compared to the Elation team, which is like, are we surprised? No, but he's just strong enough to brute force currently because like single target is just that strong. It's the same thing with like Anoxa when he released. Anoxa was never the strongest DPS in the game, but he always had the lowest cost zero cycles because of his bounce damage against single target. Fei Xiao, same thing. Archer, same thing. Like hunt characters on release have always had like the lowest cost zero cycles as compared to the rest because they can just brute force it. But they are the most susceptible to like HP inflation and, you know, getting countered by certain enemy lineups.
I can fly too.
Yeah, Ashvale ran at sub DPS is like trolling kinda.
Has arrived.
I understand why some people would do it for like maybe that small buff for a fake Shao team, but it's like I don't know. Like Fei Xiao needs to get a Nova Flare at this point, dude. The thing is, he'll 100% be a sub DPS when he gets his actual main DPS, though. Like, it isn't that surprising. I said the same thing when, what's it called? Anon leaked that he'd be a sub DPS a bit earlier before the beta dropped. But it was like, it happens. Like, Fei Xiao's at 2.x DPS. Ashvale is in 4.x. Like, I already had a feeling, a strong one, that he'd probably be stronger main. Like, that just is how it is. He's just so much more new. Oh, by the way, fun fact. I checked the calcs on Camaraderie's thing to see, like, how many Eidolons a Sparksy would need to make up for not having Yao Guang. And, even at E6, I think Sparksy MDPS is still weaker than an E0 Sparksy with Yao Guang. Her Eidolons are that bad? Well, the thing is, Sparksy's first two Eidolons are kinda in a Noxa situation. And what I mean by this is, it's very clearly meant for sub DPS with a main DPS as compared to elevating her own damage. But it's also like Yao Guang enhances the value of Sparksy Eidolons and is already like a 100+% upgrade over any other support option. So you don't just lose that like 100% upgrade, you also lose the value of some Sparksy Eidolons without having Yao Guang on the team, making the difference even more steep from missing her. Because for those who don't know, Sparksy's E1 is that at the end of every AHA instant, she'll give 15% res pen normally, but at the end of every AHA instant, she generates 5 punchline. And this applies to Yao Guang's AHA instant too. So value goes down if you don't have Yao Guang anymore. And then her E2 is that she gets an extra turn every time an AHA instant ends in some thrill, which also synergizes with Yao Guang's AHA instant. So both her first Eidolons lose value if you don't have Yao Guang. And I give up. Easy. Easy. How much punchline do you think Silverwolf SP will need to ult? 50? Maybe 50? I think 50 makes sense. That's enough for her to get like in a 3 Elation team, it should be enough for her to get like 2 ultimates each cycle in a 0 cycle, which I don't think is that unbelievable. If they make it something steep as shit like 100, I don't know. But my guess is like 50 punchline. First try, by the way, true. Ash E2 is garbage. The extra gluttony stacks doesn't matter. I mean, almost. From the calcs I've seen, it's like a 10 to 15% upgrade getting his E2. Like, that shit is garbage. His only good Eidolons are E1 and E6. Oh. How's Elation gonna power creep mono rem? Damage. Aha, instant speed. Also, why are you bringing up an E6 Siren?
The knight's challenge has arrived.
Yeah, like, people kind of don't realize. Buffed Wowo alone will probably be enough, not even including a third Elation unit, to make Sparksy and Yao Guang DPS like as strong as Mono Rem. Like, that alone will probably be enough. So that is without a third Elation unit. They're less reliant on their Lycones. That is without an Elation sustain. 'I got 6 pulls today. Let's go. Ugh. I am at 28 pity. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, the Elation team also has the ability to run sustainless while Mono Rem can't. So if you run sustainless with EMC, I imagine the damage ceiling is just way higher. "28 days with 8 pity left. Pack it up." It's still possible. Wuwa soft pity really kicks in at like 68 pity. So I only need 40 more pulls. I've done 0 exploration on the new area. I haven't fully explored this. I can still get a few more asterite from Lyra right now. And they're giving 400 more asterite tomorrow. And I as well get asterite, pulls from this, an extra 5. And I still have a ton of events too. It's possible, but I basically have to max out everything. Oh, that's 2 more pulls. So now I'm at 30 pity. Ooh, wait. Oh my god, what a pull. Wow. That is that is actually really, really good. Thank God.
Much matter. Hopefully, we'll make new findings.
There we go. Why does your shorekeeper have an icon on her? Because I don't own her. I have the returnee event, which allows you to pick a support resonator. Yeah, Max, exactly. It's gone after it's over? Yeah. Can't use it in Double Pawn's Matrix either. Can you use SK and TOA? I mean, I can check. Nah, I can't use the SK. I think you can't use the SK in you can't use support resonator against endgame. That was not the win? What do you mean? What happened?
Don't let your jaw drop yet.
Which account is this?
Watch and
S6 Cartethia account.
the knight's challenge has arrived.
Beautiful day. Got some map exploration. Oh, just tuners? I already have like 10k. I thought all Elation characters were basically the first half of the version. No, the majority of them are 4.0 to 4.2. But there should still be one or two according to Anon for the rest of the version. Elation sustain is basically guaranteed, and then it's up in the air if there's a second one. I think if there is a second one, it's just going to be a DPS. Still worth it to get E2 Phanon without Seri? Yeah. I think there's a chance of there not being an Elation sustain. Nah, there will definitely be an Elation sustain. They made a tailored sustain for Break. They made a sustain for Phanon, who just ended up being general like most of Phanon supports. And they're definitely going to make a sustain for Elation since they did for Rem.
I can fly too.
Nah, Everly. I think it's like guaranteed. There's just no way. It's the most shilled team of the entire version, and you think they're not going to try and sell a sustain for it? Really? Like, let's be honest. Buffed Huohuo doesn't synergize with Silverwolf SP because Silverwolf SP has a gimmick ult, which wants punchline. So, are we really going to be using a half-ass sustain of Huohuo buffed for the rest of the version? I don't think so, man. I also think it's important to mention the only confirmed sustain in this version currently is Pearl. There's always two new sustains in a version. So we have Pearl and nobody else. There's an open slot for sustain.
The knight's challenge has arrived.
How would you solve Yao's energy issues without Huohuo? Buddy, the S1 is right there. Why do you think the S1 prioritizes energy so badly? And even then, it's like,
I can fly
you guys overrate the Yao Guang energy situation like way too much. Like, this isn't a Robin situation. Like, Yao Guang doesn't need to be spamming her ult every single time. She can easily get by, and she'll gain more energy the more Elation characters are added to the team anyways. Like, this isn't a Robin situation. This is why when you actually do calcs and you check the calcs, her signature is legit like a 5% jump over the 4-star. Like, that's it. You see people saying Yao Guang has the strongest Lycone in the game. That shit is literally 5%, believe it or not. The only value the Lycone has, it makes relic building on your character slightly easier and allows Yao Guang to get a bit of a speed boost. And that's it. The energy is like a minuscule difference.
The knight's challenge has arrived. Cannons, descend!
5%, 5%. It's sometimes 12% in a zero cycle if it makes the difference of getting an extra aha instant. But that's looking at things in a zero cycle perspective. If you just look at it objectively overall throughout multiple cycles, it's like a Cyrene situation, right? If you look at Cyrene in a zero cycle situation, she looks way worse than Sunday for a Phanon. If you go past a few cycles, she is the strongest support for Phanon next to Saridra, right? It's like the same thing kind of applies here. If you look at zero cycles, the Lycone matters more. But if you look at overall cycles, then the Lycone barely matters. It's really just like a convenience thing. It makes it easier to build your characters, and it makes it more consistent for her to do aha instants and like zero cycles and shit. And then even then, it's like, sure, like temporarily you can just alleviate this problem with Woho, but it's obvious that buffed Woho is not meant for this team. Like, let's be honest, right? I think buffed Woho is probably like a temporary like best in slot for them, and that's it. Do you think we'll get any new dot slash break characters in 4.x? No. My only guess for a possible break character is Himiko. And if Himiko does end up being break, then she would probably get one or two shield supports. But like, if that doesn't happen, then no, probably not. Like, I'm gonna be honest, expecting any dot upgrades is like hella greedy. Like, dot has been the most shield team in like the past year with the buffs and Heislands and shit. Like more than anybody else. And now their sustain team is getting buffed because of buffed Wohwell. Like dot mains don't have any right to complain really. I mean, I wouldn't say you're delusional, Nile. I actually think the exact same thing. Like I have said this a few times. I think there will be an Elation sustain, but it'll probably be Nihilux to sell like a full woman team for the, Annie team. And then there will be like Sampo as a DPS, as like the last last Elation DPS of the Virgin. I could be wrong, but that's been my guess as well for a while now. Dot mains finally unshafted. Yeah, and they all have broken ass Eidolon investment too. I actually like before I started this stream, I got recommended a video from HOS, and like I guess this is first time that HOS got E1 Heislands, and dude was fucking ecstatic. Like the guy was happy as shit. He's like, "Oh my god, this E1 jump is like as big as Evernight E2 and Phanon E2 it feels like." So he's happy as fuck after getting E1 Heislands. And then you also have things like S1 Heislands, E1 Black Swan, E1 Kafka, now the buffed Whoa Whoa. What do you think about the power level of the Annie team? I saw Zero Cycler's opinions about Sparksy and MOC 4.1. They called her weak. It made me wonder how strong Silverwolf SP would be compared to Cass. Um, I do think they've purposefully not made Sparksy power creep so that they don't make a Noxa Evernight situations anymore. I've already talked about this a few times. So like Sparksy is not main DPS elation performance. And then it's also like people can say whatever they want. Sparksy is getting fucking nerfed. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too early to say that a character is like bad or weak when they are actively getting massively nerfed by not having more elation characters available currently. Like just adding EMC probably into like a sustainless Sparksy team, I bet you that team is probably going to be the strongest team in the entirety of the game. If you ignore the fact that Silverwolf SP is also dropping on the same patch in Evanesia. Right. Like that probably is going to be the case. And then she's supposed to be a sub DPS for Silverwolf Espy, who will probably be the mono elation character. So I think people like trying to underrate the Sparksy value and Sparksy DPS. It's like, yeah, currently it doesn't look the best, but we all know it's going to age way, way, way better. You think Silverwolf's SP power level will compensate for that? Well, one, I think Sparksy main DPS will still be stronger than every team prior when she gets EMC, and especially in the future with the Elation sustain. But that's not for a while, so it's like whatever. Um, but yes, Silverwolf will be noticeable power creep in my opinion. Like Sparksy main DPS will be on the level, if not stronger, slightly with like EMC in my opinion. And then the Silverwolf Yao Guang Sparksy team with probably temporarily buffed Huohuo will definitely be stronger than all the previous teams. I put hard money on it. Also, it's not like the Sparksy team is like weak. Like I've already seen zero cycle showcases, 3 cost 0 cycles against an Icker where Sparksy legit brute forces and never even breaks him. Like a 3 cost 0 cycle against Icker with a completely half-assed team because most elation units meant for you aren't out yet. Like that is really, really good.
I can
Couldn't even break him. Just brute forced it with 50% less damage. Farming how many pulls a day? Already farmed the Muni. Already got my daily quota done. At 30 pity right now. Working my way up to that S3 AMF. Do we know what MCs? From the Herda Shop Lycone, in my opinion, it's obvious he's going to be like an RMC for Elation, is what I think he'll be. I think EMC is just an RMC for Elation. Because he's very clearly a hyper carry buffer based off of the Herda Shop cone. We just don't know, like, does he have action advance? Like, how many buffs does he give? His elation skill, does it have a reward on it similar to like Yao Guang and Sparksy? That's the only thing that's up in the air. But the Herda Shop cone basically like spoils his kit. He's definitely a hyper carry buffer. HMC isn't a hyper carry buffer though. There's a Herda Shop LC for Elation. Yes. Yeah. I've mentioned this a few times. It's in the 4.1 beta with Ashvale. It leaks that EMC can only target one ally on both ultimate and skill. And when he targets that ally, they get a 12% elation increase. So, definitely a hyper carry buffer. Oh, wait, no. At S5, it's a 24% elation increase. My bad. I keep forgetting Herda shop cones are like easily attainable with S5 from just playing the game. if they do replace Yao, would she still be usable? They're not replacing Yao, dude. It's not happening. It just isn't happening. I'm sorry. Don't worry, you'll be fine. You don't gotta sweat it. Here's the reality. If they make a so-called EMC upgrade stronger than Yao Guang, you know what people are gonna do anyways? Who've already invested into Yao Guang? They're just gonna run sustainless. Let's be honest, right? Like even in the 1% chance scenario, they make a Yao Guang direct power creep near the end of the version. People are just gonna run sustainless anyways, and so it doesn't matter. No, this isn't my QU account. This is my Kartethia account. So he has done too much damage to people. Yeah, like people truly do not understand just how insanely good Yao Guang's kit is for Elation. Like people will say, "Oh, you know, Tribby. Tribby was made for Herda. She was never made for fucking Remembrance. I'm tired of this shit." Then they'll be like, "Oh, Sunday. Literally, all Sunday did was give action advance to summons and memo sprites, right? And then his buffs were mainly summon related, right? Like even on his release, the majority of people talked about his value in Jing Yuan and Agleia teams. They didn't really talk about it elsewhere. And then the guy was meta for like half of the 3.x teams for nearly the entire version until Cyrene came out. Now he's a best in slot for Ashvale, and people have the audacity to say that they got scammed and he has no value. No, yeah, exactly. Sunday was meant mainly for summons, was in the previous version, was not of the same path, and did not have any specific damage buffing for memo sprites like Yao Guang does. Right? Yao Guang has elation damage buffing, is not a generalist buffer in the slightest. Her vertical investment and her ultimate's gimmick of Aha Instant are all tailored for elation teams. It's like it's the complete opposite of Sunday's kit. You know, Sunday is incredibly general with a little bit of a gimmick to his niche, and then Yao Guang is incredibly niche and then has a few bit of general buffs that can you can maybe use her if you have literally nobody else in some teams, right, that are in elation. They are the complete opposite. What dupe investment is this cart? S6.
The knight's challenge has arrived.
There's a reason they have her running the entire patch. Not even that. It's like people who haven't been in the game for long or don't pay attention to it may not understand why this actually plays a factor in like, you know, character value. But HSR is highly known for rerunning characters that synergize with the upcoming new banner characters within like 3 patches after initial release, right? This is like incredibly normal for them. So when you look at it, right, Sparksy and Yao Guang are in 4.0. So 3 patches later is legit the patch after both Silverwolf and Evanesia come out. So people think that they are gonna like replace Yao Guang, especially before she even gets her first rerun right after the Annie patch. And that is a lot of delusion. That plays a bigger factor than people actually usually expect. There's no way they would ever do that. Yeah, that's true, Rando. Like, Cyrene really didn't replace RMC. In a lot of teams, she just made it more valuable to have RMC next to her. But yeah, so like, you'll have 4.0,
Challenge has arrived.
Sparksy and Yao Guang. 4.1 is only Asheville for 4 weeks. 4.2 Evanesia Silverwolf, both Elation DPSs. And then in 4.3, for anybody who was on the fence, right, all the Yao Guang Doomers, Sparksy isn't going to be a sub DPS, she's going to be stuck as a main DPS. Once Hoyo allows them to realize, oh, their best in slot teams are with Yao Guang, and, you know, Silverwolf SP does want Sparksy as a sub DPS, let's rerun them in 4.3 for people who thought wrong, right? That's how this entire fiasco is going to go. I'd actually like to say they kind of took a page from Wua's book in this. Because although Wua can be sometimes greedy with like back to back banners, like a little bit ago, they were like with Canarella Frolova, and I think there's like another example of this. Yeah, Phoebe and Zanny. Like they released the support first, and then like a couple patches later is when they released the DPS. Right. So Wua was already kind of known for doing this, more so at the beginning of version 2, but lately they've kind of stopped, unfortunately. Well, you can consider Kyuuwan and Sagrika maybe that same situation. You could consider Kyuuwan Sagrika that situation. But now HSR is also doing this, but for Plan Arcadia.
The knight's challenge has arrived. Such is the mercy.
Linnae Ameth? Nah, they're only one patches apart. It's not just a support first thing, but also like multiple patches apart. Is Kyuan going to be best in slot for Sagrika? It's leaked that the rerun banner on Sagrika's patch is Kyuan, and she is an arrow echo skill damage dealer. So I'm going to be honest, it couldn't get any more obvious who's going to be best in slot for her. Do you think it's worth pulling E2 Yao Guang over S1 and prep for Silverwolf team? E2 Yao Guang or I don't know. Because I do think there's a chance that E1 Sparksy could end up being better than E2 Yao, in my opinion. Because E1 Sparksy is currently really only 15% res pen, but the 5 punchline at the end of every AHA instant might be enough to maybe fit like another Silverwolf ult and like 300 AV or something, and then that can make a more noticeable difference. But E2 Yao Guang is like a universal AoE buff
The
of
knight's
both
challenge has
elation
arrived.
and speed increase, which also increases AHA instant speed. So it's like, I don't know. I'd have to wait until we see Silverwolf's kid and everything, unfortunately. That's hard to say. It's like between E2 Yao Guang or E1 Sparksy for Silver Wolf. If this were Evanescia, I would say for sure E2 Yao Guang, but
I can fly too.
and then there's also the thing of like, you might want to get E2 Silverwolf too. There is a real chance that you might have wanted to save the investment in Eidolons and like Yao Guang and these characters as Silverwolf has broken enough Eidolons, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I'd say wait until rerun personally. Yeah, HSR incentivizes vertical investment a lot more as compared to WUA. So it's like hella worth it. If we were in like 2.x HSR, it'd be even,
The Knight's
but
challenge has arrived.
because of 3.x, like you have characters like Phaedon, Evernight, Cassie, um I mean even Sparksy has better E2 investment than like a lot of WUA characters S3s. Yeah, Heisland's E1. Support E1s are also stronger in HSR as compared to WUA. Like, people were losing their shit when they finally found out about what Mornai S1 does. And Mornai S1 is usually like,
Has arrived.
I don't know, a 10% buff towards team damage in WUA. Like, if you added an E1 Tribune to this game, all hell would break loose. Also, something I've like kind of noticed, for some reason, a lot of WUA TCers and people who do calcs only take into account sequence investment and how much it buffs the character themselves and not the entire team, which is like kind of the opposite of what they do in HSR. Most HSR TCers, when they look at like Eidolons and how much it increases performance, they take into account entire team damage, right? So, for example, those Yao Guang calcs from my recent video that Camaraderie made, like that isn't the jump for just Sparksy. That is the jump for the entire team's performance. So you'll see something like, let's say, Ameth, right? She gets 75% stronger going from S0 to S3. And she is the main damage dealer. But if you look at it from a full team damage perspective, then it isn't 75%, right? It's probably more of like 55 to 60% jump going from S0 to S3, which changes your perspective just a little bit, right? I think the only way AMS sequences can be worth it for someone is if they go all the way to S3. If you aren't going to S3, S1 and S2 are like really mid. They're really, really mid. It's actually someone like, it's kind of weird. I thought they'd give her the cart treatment with sequences before we ever got her beta, but no, her S1 and S2 are really weak. They suck. Got it. I mean, her S3 is good. It's just the S1 S2 really brings it down. Although I will say, like, listen, I have my problems with WUA, I am fully aware I probably like HSR more than I like Wua and like its meta shit. Because Wua has less power creep and HP inflation, the sequences do have more value. You know, there's no disputing that really. Like, if we look at, let's say, if we look at a Lotta, right, a Carlotta, her new best in slot team is probably with Lene, right? I haven't seen any calcs about it, but it should be with Lene, and then like Mornai or SK or whatever. So what happens is if you get an S2 Lotta, who by the way at this point is more than a year old, she is on the same level as a full S0 R1 team of the most recent EPS, right? S2 or S3, which is highly valuable. Like, for example, if you were to get in E2 Herda, she is not as strong or stronger than Mono Rem with full E0 S1. She isn't. Um, she still performs very well. She'll definitely shit on the endgame content nonetheless, but even with an E2 investment, it isn't enough. So, well, the thing is, not all characters have bad jumps for S1, S2, which is why I find it weird. Like for example, Cartethia S2 jump is large. It's actually pretty significant at like 50 to 60%. Galbrena, I think, also gets like a near 50% upgrade going from S0 to S2. So Ameth being like 20%, I don't know, it kind of caught me off guard. That's the lowest it's been in quite a while for a DPS. Holy Lulu, what a stack team. Do you think it's still worth it to go into E1 Evernight over S1 with Elation coming? I have full Rem. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you're running Evernight as a sub DPS, absolutely prioritize E1. In main DPS, they're like even. It's just because Evernight doesn't have that many LC alternatives. But E1, in my opinion, is always going to have the higher value because it also puts you like one step closer to her E2, which is like astronomical. That E2 is literally like Phanon levels. So you always have the option of like, I can stick on E1, but if I ever feel like this team is starting to fall off a little bit, I'll just grab that E2 and everything changes.
The knight's challenge is right.
I'm the biggest bird, I'm the biggest bird.
Repent. Your silence beckons. Your wish for wealth is granted.
I have Cass S1, so I know E1 is better. It's more about if it's worth vertically investing into Rem more. Yes, you'll be fine. Mono Rem is okay. Mono Rem is the most so quote unquote future proof team in terms of vertical investment. Like every single teammate on the team, the lowest value is probably Cyrene, right? But the other three, Hyacine, Evernight, and Cassie, all have astronomical E1 and E2 investments. Cassie, not so much the E1, but yes, the E2. So, like, for example, E1 Evernight plus an E1 Hyacine combo and Mono Rem is like a massive upgrade. And then you still need to keep in mind there's S1 Evernight. There is S1 Hyacine. There's E2 Hyacine, which gives the entire team, if I remember correctly, like a 20 or 30% speed buff, right? There's E2 Evernight. There's E2 Cassie. Like, there is so much vertical investment options in that team. It's going to last if you keep investing into it, basically no matter what, in my opinion. 30% speed, yeah. Like crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, like, of old teams, like, if you're asking, is it worth it to still invest in them? If you have Mono Rem, yes. 100%. 100%. They all scale so much higher when they get given vertical investment in Eidolons. Are you ready for the Doom posting of 4.2? Yeah, 4.2. I can already predict it's going to be the worst beta of all time. You have buffed Woho, which is finally a Saber buff. Probably best in slot for Dot Team. Best in slot for Eggy, maybe. And, a few other teams in the game. You're probably also going to use her temporarily as a best in slot for Elation teams. You have buff Firefly. We already know how much Firefly gets hated. I mean, I don't need to go through it. We got Seal. This is a buff people have been waiting for forever, so they're going to be incredibly critical if they find it lacking. We got the first standard character getting buffed. Same thing. People are going to be incredibly critical if they make the standard character not buffed enough, right, as compared to the limited ones. And then you obviously got Evanesia and Silverwolf best in slot team drama. It's genuinely going to be the most annoying beta of all time. I mean, I don't think Yai is going to get the Doom posting. It's going to be Silverwolf's team. Because people are like, you don't understand. They're like, I'd say the majority of people who think they know, shit, are supremely confident that Yao Guang and not having her on a Silverwolf team will barely make a difference. Right? Like, the amount of people I've seen say, just replace Yao Guang with Buff Sparkle, and I bet she'll be a really good alternative in which Yao Guang is barely better if she is. These people do not understand how, like, this is literally Cyrene all over again, with people saying, oh, Cyrene, she only really buffs one team, and even then it isn't all that much. Like, that is how the majority of casual players saw Cyrene. The same thing is going to happen here. The exact same thing is going to happen here. People are going to vastly underestimate Yao Guang and then later on complain of, like, oh, what? I didn't know Yao Guang was this strong. No. That actually turned out to be true because Cyrene gave most teams like a zero point 0.5 cycle gate on Pride win. No, my point is people acting like every team is like that, Everly. And I have to say, like, here's the thing. Obviously, you aren't going to see how big of a difference it makes as much when you're already having the most meta teams that are clearing mostly in a couple cycles, right? But especially for characters like Anaxa, main DPS Evernight, Mono Rem, My Day, right? Black Swan before she got buffed, Cyrene was noticeably better for the Dot team. Like, there were so many teams that got significantly better performance if you grab Cyrene. and use as compared to anyone else. Sing out loud, yeah. Like you guys can see it in my Anoxa clears, right? Like every time I upload a video of my E6 Anoxa, like you can see he has high damage, but the frequency is too low as compared to something like a Cyrene Ceridra team. So my E6 Anoxa genuinely gets beat by E0 Anoxas with Cyrene Ceridra because they can spam way more action advances and skill point gen, right? Like it's insane how much that combo does for Anoxa. His E6 can't even compete against it, right? So it's like there's a lot of characters where Cyrene is that difference maker. And then the funniest part about all this is she is a bigger jump than Cyrene for Elation teams. Like she is a bigger jump, not a smaller one or on the same level. She's bigger, which is like so people will feel it more. Kind of confused why people think a team-wide buffer that can trigger 3 skills per ult won't be good. I don't know. Well, even without Sparksy Everly, she's still probably the most SP positive third slot in the game. So it makes sense. Even without Sparksy and without Aha Instant having that many speed, just because of her generating that SP on Elation skill, it's yeah, most SP positive one. Oh yeah, she hits a lot of damage, Everly. Like I tried to stress this to people when they were comparing to Sparkle, and they always ignored this every time when I brought it up, and they just talked about other things. But it's like Yao Guang adds damage. Like she genuinely has really. It's like Tribby when she first released, kinda right, where you could basically run the wheelchair with characters because they actually had a decent damage output. That same thing applies to Yao Guang right now. Like she does more damage than any third slot support on her Elation skills. So she contributes damage, contributes Elation buffing, certified banger, aha instance, Elation vertical investment, SP positivity, fucking on 200 speed if you build her correctly. It's kind of gross. Is Phanon an E2 merchant? No, not in my opinion. Well, his E2 is so enticing that it seems that way. But no. Um, I'd say especially now that you can run the double AA team with Phanon and no longer have to worry about skill points with Buff Sparkle Sunday combo. From what I've seen, an E0 Phanon in Sustainless with an E0 Seri, Buff Sparkle, and Sunday can get like or reach 20 million damage in a zero cycle. So like to put it in perspective, that is like some of the highest in the entire game currently. That's probably top 3, top 4 teams in the game without his E2. And then you can then get his E2 and technically double that performance and get to like 40 million in a zero cycle. And then it's an even bigger jump in his other modes. In my opinion, Phaedon E0 has many more issues in things like Pure Fiction and APOC as compared to MOC. And that's where the E2 like feels like a insane difference maker. The problem with E0 Phaedon is if you run him with sustain, then yes, it feels worse for sure. But I think him having the ability to probably get two ult sustainless most of the time in a double action advancer comp is probably enough for most people. And that's what I'd recommend most people do. But yeah, with sustain, that probably drops. Oh yeah, for sure, Chad, for sure. What's good vertical investment for Sparksy? Uh, if you're looking for Silverwolf sub DPS Sparksy, it's probably better to just wait for Silverwolf vertical investment. But I don't know how many pulls you have, so I guess if you can afford both Sparksy's E1 and E2 synergize with Silverwolf so long as you have Yao Guang on the team. Like there's already synergy without Yao Guang, but there is significantly more synergy with Yao Guang. Both her E1 and E2.
The knight's challenge has arrived.
Vertical investment for Sparksy main DPS. Uh, it's probably E1 Yao Guang, and then you go into E2 Sparksy. That's probably the most optimal.
The knight's challenge has arrived.
All right, chat. Gonna end the stream here. Hit my daily quota of farming polls. Hope you have a great day. Good luck on any of your polls in these gotcha games.